Hey, hey, good morning. It's 11:11 on the East Coast. I'm George Hudson, joined with me, Robbie Colbreth. Robbie looking good this morning. We got a great episode ahead of us. Doing episode 19. You almost wasn't.
Man, I'm super excited. Hey, listen, guys, do us a favor. Go ahead and subscribe. Do us another favor. Go ahead and invite your community. Go ahead and invite 2 or 3 other people. Make sure you dial in right. Tell us what state you're from. Tell us what country you're zooming in on us from. You know what I mean? And put your comments in there, especially on the Savage Will in our YouTube. Put your comments in there, man, so we can respond to that stuff. And don't forget, throw up some of them thumb things and throw up some of them heart-like things, all that space. Put all that stuff in there, man. Throw some of those emoji things up in there from time to time. We dig those too, man. All right. So check it out. You almost wasn't, right? This is some crazy stuff, man. There are so many of us right now, so many people in this world living a life where we want to be something, we want to do something, we want to accomplish some things, and it's always something that keep us from being that person at that place at that right time to gain what we are looking to gain out of our lives. You almost wasn't is all about addressing this right now, right? Everything we do on Savage Will is all about addressing development, addressing growth, addressing our potential, addressing our goals, addressing those stagnant, stuck places in life that we absolutely need to get rid of, because there's some greatness waiting on us. There's some things that we can still accomplish. It has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with preparation. It has everything to do with getting unhinged and unpacked. So here it is. Let's just get into this thing. You almost wasn't. So many are caught in yesterday's it didn't happen failure, or we're caught up in a tomorrow problem. Instead of being a great angler, a fisherman of the moment, we're always caught up in these other pieces, right? How does that work? Well, if I think about it, I want to be a time angler, right? That's what they call fishermen. And what that angler simply means is fish and hook, right? Moments. When you hook one of those moments in life, it's the right place at the right time with the right people, and you become a moment genius, right? And you keenly begin to harvest moments of time. You begin to harvest moments of money, power, influence. Human dynamics begin to shift and adjust, and you're hooking yourself into that unique thing that heretofore you've been building yourself to experience. Amazingly enough, once you've developed the creativity to think, act, speak, and influence in these rivers of change where you're hooking into your moment, which is going to feed you with all the tools and everything else that you need in order to enrich you, to get you to the treasury pot that you're looking for in your life, then you'll be able to do or push through your whatever, and so that you can meet whoever. And as a result, your why ever for doing all that becomes alive, and you immortalize yourself, leaving a legacy of some type of impact forever. Now, I know this is a word play for whosoever, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is you almost wasn't. This is a call to destiny adjustment. This is a call to destiny development. This is a journey empowerment place where we can intensify in the capacity that we need in order to release, in order to galvanize our thought processes into this mode, this focused thinking, so that we can go in with reckless abandonment from all the past and whatever that means, and from worrying about the problems of tomorrow for whatever that means, so that we can get into the joy of abandonment and the release of controls that are heretofore crushed our gains and crushed our goals because we've given too much attention to it. You almost wasn't. Listen to this. It's a little poem. Hopefully you like it. I'm going to keep on critiquing it before I put it in the book, but check it out. You almost wasn't. You're not a miscarriage. You're not an abortion. You're not a loss. You're not given up on. You're here. You're here. You almost wasn't. You're not getting what you desire. You're not all dead. You're not all alive. You're not all crazy. You're here. Some people left you. Other people left you. Some of your dreams you let go to sleep. Other dreams you left awake. But you're here. You're here. You almost wasn't. When you consider a few of these possibilities, surviving molestation for some of you, molestation, surviving rape, surviving verbal and mental abuse, surviving any addiction, surviving controllers, surviving abandonment, surviving whatever you consider to be a Satan or a devil or a lying saint or a punishing believer, you're here. You're here. You almost wasn't. You almost wasn't woke me up this morning. And it reminded me, I'll never leave you, nor will I forsake you, even until the end of this age. I am what I shall be. I am. I am with you. I am what you need to be. I'm here when nobody else wasn't. You here? You here? You here. You almost wasn't. Now forget about wasn't, what wasn't. Live in what is. Awaken to what you want. Get after it with all faith, might, and all your I am life. Don't consider the past. Don't consider your age and who won't be with you because of it. Leave the history books for that. They, those, and them. Done crying about what, who, where, and whys. They weren't. So stop drowning in that madness. Start living. Terminate the why, my. They could have been. Awaken to the trumpet call. I am the one. I am the who that survived all of this. I am what I realized, and I almost wasn't. What? Living. I almost wasn't. I'm a John 18:6. I am he. And I almost wasn't. Jump in there, George.
Yeah, I love this episode just because, we always have these pivotal moments where, it can be a chance or opportunity to step forward into the direction and the goals that we're chasing after, or it can be, an opportunity to not take action, to just kind of continue in the movement and the direction that we've been kind of just wandering in. You mentioned a great point, just being caught up in the past, not being present in the now, or being stuck in the, well, I don't know if this is right for me, or what if I try it and I don't like it? And, those are just such paralyzing thoughts because, they create inaction, and then you get nowhere, and then nothing happens. And, it's like if you don't know where you want to be in 5 years, you're already there because it's just, you have no aim or no direction, no, displacement, or you're not projecting towards anything. You're just standing still.
Have you ever had an experience like that, George, personally, when you was caught up in a moment like that? And what did it do to you, man? What did it do for you? Talk to me, man. Tell me something.
Yeah, I think the main thing we have to think about if we're really wanting to learn and grow is that you have to maintain that awareness of like, hey, every moment is an opportunity to move towards the goal, towards the life, towards the skill set that I want, and not lose focus of that. You can't I don't know, just aimlessly wander and lose that awareness. Awareness is really big, and focus is really big in the world that we live in. Maybe have to get back to you on a specific moment where I utilize that, but it's all about awareness and maintaining that focus of these are the things I say are important to me, and everything else is secondary. And
so check this out. In the divine matrix of my mind, right? Where I'm splitting the atoms of my past and I'm splitting the matrix of my future, present, now, right? There's a developmental process that's taking place on the inside of me, right? And if I look at it from a scientific perspective, if I look at developmental psychology, for example, the science and the study of how and why humans grow, change, adapt across the course of their lifetimes, right? It used to be for just infants and children, and now that field has actually expanded for lifespan. If I take back and I look at my childhood, right, and I look at my my microsystems and my mesosystems, those influencing places, school, daycare, neighborhood, environment, family, and then I go into my exosystem of sorts, where those influences, they start to bear down on me a little bit more. And then I get into my macro systems and my chronal systems, man, and each one of those packs layers and layers of stuff on my life. And when it starts to pack those layers of stuff on my life, it makes me, right? It makes me based on that present moment. It makes me based on all that influence and all that stimuli that came across, right? And so what it does, it starts to make us who we are. And you do what you've been made into becoming. And so you're living in that presence. And so if you want to change that presence, it's got to start from within. We know that. And so as a leader over the talent base of our mind, as a leader over the talent base of our discoveries, as a leader over the talent base of what we can contribute to this world, we got to become high performers, man, high performing individuals, right, throughout the organization of our mindset. And we've got to start setting our mindset for growth. We got to start setting our mindset for doing the ridiculous in terms of where we are right now. And we've got to get to that place, I believe, where we can say to ourselves with perfect abandonment, I am he who I'm creating myself to be, and I'm not worried about it, and I'm not worried about the opinions anybody else has about it, because I am he. I'm present tense, and I'm going to be that thing that I want to be. But all the negativity and everything else that drains me in that place, drowns me in that place, got to go. Talk to me.
Yeah, so just real quickly, it came to mind, the moments when you're in that position of that pivotal moment, like, hey, I could go down this road or I could go down that road. So once you maintain and have that awareness, and then what does it look like to incorporate and execute that in your daily life, is I think about a lot of times how we spend our time. And, at most people want to go to work, they do their job, and then they want to go out at night. They want to go out to dinner. They want to go have some drinks and have fun and so forth. And, using the weekend instead of just entertainment, if you have a goal and you're working towards something, like, utilize that time that you have. We've talked about it a little bit. We'll go to work, be early for the boss. We'll go extra, put in the extra effort for the boss. But when it comes to having our own time, and we have these extra goals, and maybe we want to be our own boss one day, it's like, what are we using our time for in order to make that happen down the road? And if we don't use that, then, and we're still like, spending hours, many hours, the whole Sunday watching football, the whole Saturday watching football,
binge watching on TV,
like, always when football rolls around, I always, people like, who's your favorite team? Do you play fantasy? All these other things, but do you have friends that are asking, what's your favorite market? Yeah. How many Airbnbs are you going to invest in this year?
Right.
Like, what pieces do you need to put in there to make it more profitable?
What do you have your money in right now? How's that look? What advice can you give on me? Go ahead, talk it.
And it's not that you can't play fantasy. It's just, where are you spending a majority of your time? And, are you chasing after your goals? Maybe you're there and you have the things that you want and you're continuing to grow your business and that sort of thing. Great. There's a time and place for everything. Or for most things. So it's not to bash entertainment. It's not to bash relaxation. It's, don't chase relaxation and forfeit your dream, So it's some of those things, when you're, like, say it gets to Friday night and, you have a couple people, friends that are wanting to go out, but, you're still not doing things to chase your goal. Like, you have this task list that you probably had during the week and you haven't done anything on it yet, because when you get off, you're just a little bit tired or whatever the excuse is. It's, am I going to turn into the he that I want to be, or am I just going to keep going into, following the crowd? And
you're hitting on a point that is so important right now. You almost wasn't means you're not it yet.
Right.
And that's a great place of personal discovery. You're not it yet. I am he, but I'm not it yet. What is that it? That it that I know I can be, that I keep on planning for, which is what you're talking about right now. You're talking about scheduling and managing your time more effectively so that you can have more efficiency. I use an acronym: C, simplify life; S, simplify life; E, establish priorities; E, enhance efficiency; C, we got to learn how to see things differently, right? It's a great place of personal discovery. On the real, you deal with why you let whatever control you. When you're in that place, you can see, you understand your why. You don't keep on dredging down. I'm not talking about project management. You keep asking why, process management, why. In effect, it is for you, but you already know the why. And you already understand the whatever, because your why is, I want to be this person. I am he. And your whatever is, well, my friends called me out, or this situation called me out, or this control thing is affecting me a certain kind of way. That's a greatness grab. And that greatness grab has nothing to do with your age. That greatness grab has everything to do with the discipline of your mindset. That greatness grab has everything to do with what's the most important thing to you. In your I am he, your John 18:6. In your 18:6, your I am he. What is your greatness grab? So a greatness grab grows on both sides. It grows on both sides like a weed and like a flower in a garden. Like the weed, the greatness grab is going to take the most important time out of your day for you to go invest that into other people. But if you take your greatness grab and you schedule in your great moments because you understand your why and your I am he, you're not going to allow for yourself to be another whatever. You're going to schedule in what needs to be done. You put it on a timetable, and that will include your friends, because I think personal relationships are extremely important as well. But you've got to have personal relationships, but they have to be in that managed. You have to be managed on that. You've got to manage that, because otherwise you can put so much time into that, actually, because you haven't set control or boundaries. You haven't set real true boundaries so that you can get out of your whatsoevers or your whatevers that control your life. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna drop a nugget right here, right?
Yeah.
Here's the nugget. Here's the nugget right here. I almost wanted wasn't is about whoever the controller is in your life. That could be your parent, it could be your boss, your roommate, your dating partner, spouse, sibling, you know, whatever it is that causes you to break your pattern of I am he to get you to the place of your realization. That's a controller. Got it? Your emotions can be a controller. So watch this. Watch this. In order to get to your I am he in life, number one, you have to realize you can't change a controlling person. That means even yourself, you got to put in a different kind of stimulus in order to cause for transformation to take place in your mind. But also, you got to realize if somebody's got a hook on you, they've been angling on your life and they got a hook in on your life, you can't control. Listen, you can't change that person. Trying to change someone is this is only going to end in frustration. So you got to just leave them alone. Number two, you got to understand that you can't please a controller long term. They are built in your life. They're bossy behavior in your life. They're playing along in your life because you allowed it. You got to unhook. You got to unravel. Number three, you got to make choices that are about you. What? Is that egotism? Is that narcissism? Absolutely not. But you got to make a choice about you. What choices are you going to make about yourself? What you've got to achieve, what you want in this lifetime? Because obviously the I am he and somebody else that's distracted with keeping you in a certain mindset and a certain groove, a greatness grab that they're trying to cipher off of you. They're already doing what they want to do. They might be doing what they're built to do, but you're built to do something greater. So you have got to make choices for you. Number four, you got to recognize your rights. You have a right to be respected. You got a right to have your time and develop yourself. Create space between you and the controller. Listen, the controller is the avenue to you not emerging and being what you need to be. And that sometimes that controller is you. Create space. So the other day, I took some space that ordinarily I would use to do something. And I said, no, I'm getting ready. I got to get this book out. I've got to get these other pieces out. I got to go into this space right here. So I redirected my time, went into that space for an hour and a half, just literally got lost into that space for an hour and a half. Why? Because the next point, you got to set your own expectations. I can't be the best I am he if I haven't scheduled and set certain expectations for me. I have my own set of expectations. I'm a father. I'm a grandparent. I'm a minister. I'm this and that and the other. I have expectations for each one of these areas, and they're guidelines for my life. So I've got to make sure I set proper expectations in this. Number seven, don't suffer in silence. Some people, when they're going through this transformation of life, you start suffering because you made a choice, and you have to schedule some people out. Right. But you got to, and you don't have to go through it by yourself, but you got to allow some other people to jump in there and give you some instructions, give you some guidance, give you some food for thought. The rest of these I'm going to come to in a few minutes. George, I need to get you back on deck, man. I am he, Savage Will. I am he. You got to get to that spot in your life where you prioritize you, needs, wants, desires, expectations, and do it. George, light them up.
That. You dropping so many hot points right there. You know, one of the things that you mentioned that stood out was like the idea of you deserving respect and you deserving or you like owe yourself respect. And it starts within, because if you don't respect yourself, no one's going to respect you. Like if you don't value your time, no one's going to value yours. And there's just that dynamic of, you see the world the way you see yourself. So like your self-image, the way you think about your self-esteem and things like that, it's directly related to your own personal image. So those sorts of things, like no one is going to respect your time until you're sitting here budgeting it, till you're writing out the schedule, till you're saying, no, I can't make that because I have prior commitments. Like those sorts of things, you're not going to get that respect that you want or desire or deserve, so to speak, until you owe it and give it to yourself. That's kind of like the first stage of, because your friends are in your life because you brought them in your life.
That's right.
So it's like those people, that the energy vampires that we mentioned, the the people that are just kind of aimlessly
dream assassins.
The dream assassins, yeah.
Energy vampires, greatness grabbers.
Like, so those people are in your life because you were that, but you can't like disrespect them in the process of, you just kind of have to develop and evolve into a new person that's the he you want to be. And then they'll kind of phase out. Like it's just a process, and you have to trust it. You have to continue to do the daily work. You have to not sleep on your dreams. You can't sleep on your schedule. You can't sleep on, the you that you want to be. If you want and desire something beyond what you have to make that change, and you have to pivot, and you have to do that. Or else you'll just be stuck in that kind of cycle of, I had a high and then I came back down, but I really didn't make the changes in my life. I'm not adopting the self-discipline that I need to in order to be the person that I want to be, down the road. And then, so you're not allowing for those incremental changes to have such drastic change in your life down the road.
Dude, that sounds like getting real with yourself, right? Which comes to another point that I want to level set on. You got to have a direct conversation first with you, and then with other people in your life that are controlling your life because you gave them permission. Exactly. So you got to avoid the drama and accusations. You just got to state what's bothering you. First of all, you might want to have a conversation with people you've allowed in your life, and they've grabbed your greatness and everything else because you gave it to them. So if you don't have a conversation with you first, you're going to accuse them of grabbing your greatness, of being an energy vampire, or whatever we want to call them, right? You'll blame them, but you're the one that needs to have the first conversation with yourself, because having that direct conversation allows you to address what's bothering you, right? And when you can address what's bothering you, although you could point your finger at another person, the idea is you still allowed that person in your life, and you still gave that person control in a place of your life. And when we're talking about removing control from somebody, to avoid the drama and accusations and drawing out energy and drawing out time and busting up relationships, all that kind of stuff, have a direct conversation with yourself. Then the next point is seek wise counsel. You get a friend or family member, get a therapist, you get your minister, you get somebody else that you trust, a mentor. You get that person, you seek that wise counsel, and you start talking to that person. Listen, this is what I'm doing. And then, just like I had a conversation yesterday with somebody I respect super highly, and we was talking about building out his business model, consulting. I had my consulting hat on, and we was talking about consulting. And then that consulting, I'm like, listen, we have to look at what you want to do, how you want to do it, put a strategy to each step along the way. And we put a strategy for each step along the way. Now we can measure exactly what success is and what it isn't. And then we can qualify and quantify that against money and against time and against the end goal, right? And so then we can understand better what's going on. So the next point is, know that being controlled will never earn you respect. So therefore, if you don't establish these priorities up front, whether you're consulting, whether you're working on some personal good in your life, whatever, the controlling person, listen, they are not going to respect you because you don't respect yourself. Here's a clear indication when you don't respect yourself. You don't respect your own time. You don't respect your own knowledge. You don't respect what's you've already vested on the inside of you. And if you don't respect it, you can't cascade and you cannot demonstrate and you cannot communicate to another person why they should give you respect if you don't even respect yourself.
Right. Like and this is very practical. It's like if I was to say, hey, I'm going to start this diet. And then your friends and your family keep seeing you just pound cinnamon rolls and Oreos and Coke and that sort of thing. Like they're not going to believe what you say because
Yeah.
you aren't practicing your words. So it's just one of those things. And I think the initial phase of, like hacking that process of the decision making
Yep.
is saying, like, know why you do what you do.
Yeah.
Therefore, you can, and that's the first step of gaining control of your time and your decision making. So if you know the desires behind the actions that you're taking, you can say, hey, I don't want to find satisfaction. I don't want to find that security in, Oreos or whatever it is, or, a girlfriend that's not like a true, or girl relationships that aren't feeding you the way they're supposed to, or,
That's right.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say it because I feel like a lot of people struggle with it, or finding that in porn, or finding that in video games, or finding that in just things that aren't fruitful, like entertainment. Like I think is a quote that I've heard before is people find the need to aggressively entertain themselves when they don't want to address internal issues.
That's it, man.
And entertainment is a drug. Like sex can be a drug. Food is a drug, and all these things. When you look at why you do what you do, then you can kind of really address, hey, maybe there's a deeper struggle going on. And once I address that, I bring in that counsel of, minister or therapist or significant family member that can speak life and truth into my life. And then once I resolve that emotional conflict, because sometimes we're so emotionally damaged at times, we can't just take action. We only see like our problems. So you have to kind of get to the root of that. Be like, what from my past is really paralyzing me from moving forward? Am I in a healthy place where I have the energy and the time and the mental effort to put towards my dream? And things do happen. Life, is kind of crazy at times, but like we have to have those people in there so we can address them, think through it, speak through it. If we need to resolve conflict, resolve it. Don't let those things harbor up, because then that's going to kind of distract you from like why you're here, accomplishing your business goals, your relationship goals. Like you have to learn to address things on the fly and not let them bottle up, and kind of take ownership of the life that you're living. So
George, you hitting on some great stuff, man. I applaud you on this, because what comes to my mind is another one of these points to get rid of the controllers out of your life is you got to shore up your sense of strength. You got to figure out what is your strength, right? So when you were talking about self-control and you were talking about, food in particular, and telling people you want to lose weight, gain weight, whatever you want to do, but then they see you have a food addiction, and that food controls you because you eat out of an emotion. And that emotion came because when you were scarred as a child or as an adolescent or as an adult, you went and you picked up some food and you ate that food, and that food initially gave you comfort. If you can find that spot, or that therapist can help you find that spot where you start eating, and you can break that off right there, know what you're giving up. You're going to give a barter. You're going to barter in exchange, because of the way the brain works. You're going to have to exchange the food and replace it with something else. And you're going to have to give the permission to yourself to no longer allow for the food to bully you, no longer allow for the food to disrespect you by you saying, I'm going to lose a certain amount of weight, or I'm going to do this, that, or the other for my life. Yet you've given the bully permission. You're not taking the permission back from the bully, because you didn't understand the barter and exchange for getting the control off your life. So you've got to get familiar with that. You got to look at your strength. You got to see what your strength is, and celebrate your strength, or have somebody celebrate your strength. And you got to know what you're giving up in exchange, because that's a barter process. What am I giving up? I'm giving up my hurt, and I'm giving up food. So in exchange for that, I'm putting back in my goal, my singular goal. I wouldn't do too many goals because this might be too much. I'm putting in my singular goal. I'm putting my reward system in place, and I'm going to celebrate every level that I achieve. and I'm going to reward myself. And it's not going to be with food. It might just be great job, Robbie. It might just be great job, George. This is who I really am. I can do more. So watch this. This hit home for me, George. That's why I'm bringing this in. You know it. And this is where it was. Listen. I picked up like X number of pounds during the COVID season and just right before COVID, right? And at the end of the day, I said, I'm going to stop this process. So I realized that in order to stop this process and to reverse the process and to reverse the curse of this weight gain, I had to find out what did I allow in my life that caused for the weight gain in the first place. And here's what I found out. Talking about getting somebody in your life that can help you unravel some of the stuff that you have raveled and buried so deep. What I found out was I had a scar from way back when I was a child, and I had nurtured that scar into adulthood. Having nurtured that scar into adulthood, when I was doing martial arts and doing other things more actively, I could channel that into that scar. So I could hit the bag harder. I could work out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, and it didn't matter because now I was getting rid of it, so it didn't control part of my life. But as I got older, that scar started demanding food. That scar started demanding emotional attention. And so I had to get rid of that scar. So in order for me to lose, I just recently lost 23 pounds. In order for me to get rid of that thing, I had to realize I have a great strength and discipline. I have an amazing strength and discipline. I have to rediscipline myself, but I have to also address a discipline that I allowed to be in my life, a bully. And that bully was the pain of something that had happened in my past. I had to get the bully out because the bully was controlling me. I hope you guys are catching this. The bully I actually gave permission to, it was controlling me, and it had with it a friend called food that brought me comfort. Well, when I dealt with the bully and I dealt with the issue at hand, it immediately told me I need to continue to eat this better diet, this better nutrition, eliminate some of these other things, be serious about it. Right. And not so serious that it bogs me down in a crazy mental way, but enough to recognize I had to change the way the control was controlling me. And having done that and bringing in a different kind of behavior, it brought about a different kind of outcome. And now it brought about a different kind of influence, how I influence myself with the things I say and do in order to keep this weight loss process in flex, in flow. And so this is how we start breaking down these things, these barriers, these strongholds, these bullies in our life, whatever you want to call it. Controlling you're trying to control somebody else because you don't want to be hurt anymore. You've been hurt, and so you don't want to exist and have emotional interaction with certain people more. I mean, these are bullies. Take back the permission from the bully. Take it back. Barter. And put some discipline in there and put a couple of goals in there and then celebrate your strength so you can move on. And you got to know when to hold the boundaries up and you got to know when to fold the boundaries down. Those are the last couple of major points I want to let you know, because when we start doing that, and it's extremely tough to do it, sometimes you come to this end game, and the end game is I just got to let this go. That's not being a coward. That means you've exhausted too much time, too much effort, and you're not running. You're realizing that I almost was. And the reason why I'm not, I am he, is because I've spent too much time on this part of me. And it's got to go.
Yeah. I just keep coming back to this idea of, is a quote by Confucius, or know thyself. This whole idea of gaining a conscious awareness, renewing the mind. It just all goes back to, if you're trying to get more results than you already have in life, you're trying to achieve a next level of success and behavior modification isn't at the focal point of that, then I just don't know that you'll really be successful in achieving whatever it is you want to do. You have to change your thoughts. You have to change your words. You have to change your actions. And it all starts with how you think. We've all heard of the book, Think and Grow Rich. Yep. There's tools out there to change the way you think. The people that allow you in your life, the words that you have on your wall. Yeah, exactly. The power of one more is a great tool to do that.
The 10 laws is awesome as well.
Yeah. And then like Will Smith talks about it a lot, or, he has this quote that's like, self-love is, the the same as self-respect. Like if you love yourself, you'll be willing to do the things that you say you're going to do to better yourself, and that isn't always an easy process. So a lot of people struggle with weight, especially in America. We're like way obese. Like, but most people would say they don't want to carry that extra weight, right? And there's statistical evidence saying that you're less healthy, you live less time if the heavier you are. So, and I believe it starts with our decision making, like,
100%.
and then you have to bring in people to help you, and because it is really hard. I think addiction is very, very hard, and I
Yeah.
speak about it. And though I don't really struggle with a lot of the physical, like food addiction, I treat my body like very, very strictly, and it wasn't easy at one point. I've never battled carrying more weight than I feel like I should have. So I don't mean to belittle or downplay that struggle. It's just when you get to the root of the problem is it's all in the decision making. And the cool part is we can control that. We can
Yeah.
control the decisions that we make, whether we believe it or not. We just have to change that belief. It starts with what's between the ears,
There it is right there, because the root cause oftentimes is something that happened intellectual, something emotional, and it grabbed a cousin, a first cousin, and it acts out through the first cousin, whether it's sexually acting out, whether it's acting out with food, whether it's acting out with overtraining, whatever the case may be. I got a friend that's watching this right now on Facebook. He's the gentleman, John. John, we buy cars from John all the time. John Dye, he's an amazing man. John Dye just dropped some incredible weight, and I was moved by him because we went to go see him because he was looking at a new vehicle a while back. And it's a particular kind of truck that I want to purchase. And John Dye is going to be my man. He's going to make sure we get that truck. Keep me informed, John. So at the end of the day, he's checking this out right now. John dropped like 50 pounds. I said, dude, what in the ham sandwich and buttermilk biscuits are you doing? You just dropped all this weight. You look great. And so he told me about his process, man. And so in his process, I was listening to his process, just how he drilled it all down. But I said to myself as he was speaking, that's a mental process. He went through the mental process. And what he did with that mental, he tapped into that frozen place. And when he got into that frozen place where things weren't happening in his life, then he was able to unthaw. And then he began to harvest unharvested greatness. He's a great guy. He's a great man. There's some other people that I can speak to in respects to this. But there's an unharvested greatness in you. Every single person that's listening right now, every person that's going to listen, there's unharvested greatness. There's some places that are still frozen. And once they unfreeze, you're going to tap into some realities about yourself. And you're going to say, wow, why didn't I do this before? Forget about that. Get into your I am he, your right now present moment. Get into your present, because when you get into your present, you don't need to spend time in why you didn't do it. You need to celebrate that you did it, and you need to put a plan together to move forward. Let me tell you some nuggets. Man, one of my favorite authors is John C. Maxwell. Man, I've got just about every one of his books here in my office and some of his tape series, because I just think his mind is amazing. He's one of the first megachurch pastors in the United States of America. Now he teaches leaders all around the world. But in one of his books, he speaks about becoming a believer in people. The first person you need to become a believer in is yourself. You got to believe in you before you have success. Remember, it's easy to celebrate people that are having great success. One of my favorite teams, the Golden State Warriors. We were digging the Golden State Warriors before they start that championship run, right? We were digging them because I was looking at particularly Steph Curry, and they were getting ready to cut this brother because he had ankle issues, and they just didn't think he was going to develop much. But he went home, he put his work in. He accepted the criticism of what was going on. He accepted what was not happening with his body. He put in the work, and he took away the bully of blame and shame and whatever else could have gone along with that. I don't know all of those parts, but here's what I do know. They came back that next season, and everything else is history. He put together a mindset that infected and affected his entire team, and they started winning. He started to believe. So what you got to do is believe in ourselves, or believe in success before we have it, right? We have to believe, we have to do, and you have to time it. You have to put a time bubble on it. Then you have to emphasize your strength. What is your strength? That's part of what the journey is. We don't emphasize our own strength. What is your strength? My strength is the ability to communicate. My strength is the ability to set a discipline plan and follow that plan. My strength is to be honest. I go to people that I've affected, and when I found out I'm the problem, root cause, and I apologize to them. They don't have to accept my apology. I just realized I created a problem for them and I wanted to end. So I then focus on my strength. Here's another one. Believe in people before they have proved themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's a key to motivation. If you can believe in people before they have proved themselves, how in the world can you talk to your child who's growing and developing and don't have so much experience with life and expect them to have experience with life and be somewhere that they're not? Because it doesn't make sense. So then you can become a hindering force to them. But if you want to build trust and you want to have faith and you want to have a relationship with them, you got to emphasize their strength. You got to remind them of the greatness that you see in them. And if it's one thing, you share that one thing so they can reach that potential because they're motivated by the words you're sharing with them. Then you've got to list your past successes, right? But just think about this. I'm still talking about Golden State Warriors for a second. Golden State Warriors, they won another championship this year. They weren't to me, looking at the teams that were out there, physically, they weren't the best team. Spiritually and mentally, they were the greatest team. Listen, they beat LeBron. When they start loading up all the accomplishments that they had prior to this accomplishment that they just accomplished, here's what was cool about it. They said, we've been there before. We've done this before. And what they realized was these other cats that we're playing against, they haven't. You got to celebrate your successes, guys. What have you done before? Journal it. Some of you are not succeeding in going any further because you haven't journaled what you've already been successful at. I've been successful in business. I've been successful in weight loss. I've been successful in building my body back up. I'm getting it, baby. It's on its way back. But what I'm trying to get at for real talk, you got to be able to instill confidence in yourself, still instill confidence in other people so that they won't fall. And then you build a platform where everybody can win together. You visualize the future as a winner. Because if you don't, you're going to be, I almost wasn't. But now you can be, I am he. And that energy will start flowing freely coursing through your veins for super success and accomplishment.
Yeah, it's all about what's between your ears and where's your focus. Where are your thoughts at the beginning of the day? Where are your thoughts at the end of the day? And when you have these little pockets of time where that's your time and you're not at work or you're not tending to your family or you're not with your children, like, because we all have it. How are we utilizing that time? And where are we making our priorities? If we don't prioritize our time, we're not prioritizing ourselves. And time is really, it's the only thing we can't get back, but we can control what we do with it. And, it just makes things difficult if you're not using your time for your favor and you're not communicating your goals with the time you use. Like, if the screen time is really cool on the iPhone, sometimes it's depressing at how much time we spend on certain things. But if you think about your life and the way that Apple puts the screen time on your phone, is like, how much, literally to the minute, how much time am I spending towards developing this new skill that's supposedly going to take me to being financially free from a 9 to 5? And if the answer is 30 minutes a day, well, maybe you should, is that enough time? Or is that, like, how much time do you have free aside from that? And what are you communicating to your family, to the world, to God, to yourself, that, like, I'm really trying to make this happen? Because if you're really trying to make something happen, you can do it a lot quicker than you think. If you're losing your house and something happens for some reason and you have to move to a new house, like, you're going to get up and move pretty quickly. You're going to get your things together. It might be inconvenient, but, like, you're going to find a house. You could find it by the end of that day. Start the moving, get your mattress in the new bedroom. Like all of that might seem inconvenient, but, like, it sounds like this huge, long process, but you can make it happen. And you just have to believe that it can happen and be willing to go through the discomfort of that process.
Let me hit you with something right here, and keep that point. Dr. Dennis Waitley, right, in the psychology of winning, he talks about feeding your robot. Feeding your robot is feeding your mind. This guy, I just wanted to tag that because you just finished talking about the iPhone, the clock in your minutes, how much you're looking at this, that, and the other. And right, and so when you feed your mind, you feed your robot, you have to feed it that positive, nourishing information that's going to remind you, that's going to motivate you, that's going to inspire you, that's going to cause you to open up your iPhone and start typing out notes that can become a part of the book you're writing about yourself, or speak into your microphone your notes so you can hear a replay back of the positive exchange, so that your robot can capture what it is you're trying to become. You said you can get there quicker than we possibly can imagine. The way we get there quicker is a mind hack. And part of the mind hack is you have got to feed your robot. Your mind is a robot. What you put inside of that thing, that becomes memory. It becomes data. And that memory and data point is going to replay at some point in your life. And if you're feeding it with the discipline, you're feeding it with the order, you're feeding it with the commitment, and that's supported with growing a comprehensive plan for execution, an execution model that has rewards and side posts where you celebrate the glory of accomplishment and elevation, and you level up for promotion. When you start creating those types of things on the inside of you, all of a sudden you'll start to see the awesomeness of your abilities and your talents, what they really are. Because there's some other talents and abilities that are left there dormant. They're waiting for the weight of your blindness. They're waiting for the weight of you accepting yourself and accomplishing for yourself, the weight of not doing that to be removed. And so you start to, once you remove those things, so you start to realize being truthful to yourself, no longer blaming anything or anybody else for the condition you're in, but looking at what caused the condition for you to start thinking the way that you do, then boot it out, take the permission away from it, then the needed stimuli to reboot your robot and give it positive information, give it positive feedback, give it an execution model, a plan that's comprehensive, not so drawn out. Comprehensive doesn't mean that it's got to be long and super detailed. It's just comprehensive enough that it involves the plan itself, the execution model. It involves the discipline necessary, the order, the commitment, and it involves the support you need to get that thing done. When you put that kind of plan together, you can do anything. You can accomplish anything, and it's not based on your age. It's not based on your race. It's not based on anything but what you're feeding your robot. Reboot the program. Reboot it and start feeding it some good stuff. George.
Yeah, you just have to sit down and evaluate and become like a master of time. Evaluate what you're doing, why you're doing it, and say, is it going towards the desired goal? And then reboot your day. Rediscover what your day should look like if you were a millionaire. Like, what would a day in a millionaire's shoes look like? How do they utilize their time? Or what would it, like, maybe a millionaire goal like that might stress people out. What's the next checkpoint where you'd be more free, more happy, more enjoyable? I speak about money a lot, and people kind of have a negative view of money, but and money doesn't buy happiness, but it's going to get you the time and allow you to have the options to pursue the things that make you happy. So it's a tool. I don't want people to misunderstand the way I talk about money, because yes, money doesn't provide good things at times, but that's all about the desire and what we choose to do with it. If you figure out your mission, you figured out why you're doing what you're doing, and it's genuine and you're there to help people, you're going to bring people up with you. Like, a lot of people are mad at really rich people because they figured out, I think it's a jealousy thing maybe, or they just don't enjoy their struggle and don't see what they need to do to get out of it. But like, when you look at Steve Jobs or Bezos, like, think about how many people have an opportunity to work above a poor wage. Like, he's providing so many jobs for people. And when you have that mentality, you have that abundance mentality of like, hey, I'm going to look to choose to see this half full rather than half empty. really change your perspective, because then it opens doors for you. When you're happy about other people's success, you're happy about your own success, you're not bitter. That negative emotion is really going to drag you down, that negative vibration. And you just have to learn to reorient, because we do it all the time. We want to see like a negative lens. And I think the negative thoughts in our brain overpower the positive thoughts, or some variety. Like, it takes so many positive thoughts. Yeah, we think them way more often. So if you can biohack that process of, no, this is great, I'm going to choose to see the positive lens. The world's not perfect, but we're going to try to make it better. And what do I need to do inside of myself to jumpstart that process? My mom used to always say, like, world peace starts at home.
Yeah.
If I can create a positive effect in my environment, my community, within myself, and then within my family, within the neighborhood, within the schools, or wherever you want to plug into, like, what are you doing to make an impact where you're at? And I think the world would change. There's a lot to point our fingers at in the world that isn't going well, or appears to not be going well. And I think it's a distraction. I think we have to just like have that tunnel vision to refocus, relock in on what's happening in our little world. And Joe Rogan talks about it a lot, is just the effect of the media and the internet and social media. And, I don't think we're really meant to be in contact with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Like, the human brain really can only develop 12 real meaningful relationships. So beyond that, I think people are seeking a lot of these superficial relationships, but not really investing in the people around us,
Because the heart is messed up.
Yeah. And I think we need to just lock in our vision and limit distraction. And that will help us hack this like behavior modification to really understand, like, what noise am I letting in my life? What friends have I let have power in my life? What bullies am I letting have power over my life? Whether it's a actual bully, or just thought patterns, or decision making,
emotions.
There's really no other place to start in my mind than just like studying your behavior, your own mind. How does it work? And bring people in that are going to help you constructively observe that and move forward in a direction that's fruitful.
To thy own self be true, and it may serve as night to day that y'all cannot be false to any man. Thou canst be false to any man. When I look at what you just finished sharing, man, I was just taking some notes. I was thinking about this emotional, intellectual, biophysical hack that has to be done in order to change our perspective. One of the things that my dad used to teach was that he says when the United States starts allowing for a lot of noise to occur. At that time, it was dealing so much with racism, our POWs, etc. When he said, when all that stuff starts to happen and we get everybody focused on that, they're actually doing something else. And when they stop that, you're going to wake up and there's a level of control that's going to be over the United States, a blanket of control that we won't be able to get out of, because all while the noise was taking place and we got caught up in the noise, we weren't thinking, we weren't trying to improve ourselves, we weren't trying to do anything different. And so we get caught in the net, the trap, the ingathering that took place during the season of the noise. I want to share something with you guys. It's about this blind believer that almost wasn't. He was a blind believer. It's one of my favorite stories in scripture. It's a story about a blind man. He was blind from birth, 38 years blind. Right? By the time he meets the Messiah, he wanted to meet the Messiah, Jesus, whom he heard about. What he heard, he wanted to see. He had been encouraged enough to believe. He realized that if he could just get into the presence, he would be able to see, right? So physically, the blind man suffered. He suffered in the stage of his journey 38 years, but in the last 3 years of his life, his plan was sharpened and his plan started to take on a different shape. Why? Because that very Messiah that he wanted to meet, that life-changing game changer that he wanted to have in his life, he heard about him. And the noise, this kind of noise was good. He was revolutionary. He was getting in the space of all kind of people. He was sparking an untapped purpose of potential and power that suddenly caused people to awaken, and it caused for people to be healed supernaturally. So this man began to see life in his brain. He began to see life in the darkness of not being able to see with his actual eyes, but it was a light on the inside of him. And he realized if he could get close to the presence, if he could get close to the presence, then that presence would cause him to be able to see. That presence would cause him to be healed in that moment. Watch this. He had abilities that were unmatched because he lived inside of his imagination. For 35 years, he lived in impossibilities. But when he heard about this new biohack that was coming through from this Messiah, who he also had heard about, his parents had heard about because the community they lived in and the study that they was involved in, he realized this is the one that everybody's been speaking about. Though they don't see him, I see him as that one. And if I can get in there at the right place at the right time, I can have this healing and I'll be able to see. Well, the thing happened. Everything that he imagined, it happened. As he got closer, the blind man that almost wasn't, as he got closer, he went to the very place where people were telling him, you're not going to amount to very much. You're blind. You're not going to amount to very much. You're a beggar. But he took and he came right into the space where he knew that this revolutionary, almost rebellious teaching, rebellious to the controllers of the day, controllers by government, controllers by religion, controllers by education, controllers on all those 7 pillars of a society. People were being controlled, including his parents. He came to that place so he could see the one, so he could be in the presence, in the path of the presence, in the path of the one. Why? He wanted his life to be changed that much. So deeply was he convinced, his energy started to draw the presence to him. Man, when he got there, he gave him a plan. He gave him a master plan. Watch this. I'm trying to tell you something. This is cool stuff. Blows my mind every time I think about it. When he came into the presence, here's what he did. The presence took what he knew to be familiar. He took the darkness of his own life, mud, and he took that mud and he spit on it. Thought, word, activity of life. And he put it on his eyes and he told him something. He said, go wash. In other words, what I want you to do is everything you know about, everything you believe, I want you to take this mud pack, which is a metaphor of allowing a man to get out of the limitations of his life. He told him to go wash away the limitations of your life. Wash away in the pool that meant sent one. And then I want you to go do something. I want you to go and pay the offering that Moses instructed. So what did this man do? He went with a plan. It was very simple. Go wash. Wash your limitations. Somebody out there understands what I'm telling you right now. Go and wash away all of your limitations. Whatever self-imposed limitations, governmental limitations, parental, societal, religious, educational, money limitations, wash them off. This will allow you to be able to see. Listen, there were people walking with the presence, walking with the one, walking with Jesus that couldn't even see what this man saw. And all he could do was hear and imagine. But in his mind, he knew if he could get close enough to the presence, it would change his life forever. And that's exactly what he did. Now watch this. Instantly, he obeyed. He went and washed, and his mindset was instantly shifted. He was able to see the brilliance of who he was, the brightness and glory of what he could be. It all came alive. Let me shift for a second. The American POWs, that's back in the 80s, when they were released, before they were released, when they were caught in captivity, here's what they did. They didn't have a Bible. They didn't have books. They didn't have instruments. What did they do? This is real stuff. What they did in darkness, they practiced what they wanted to be. They practiced playing the guitar. They practiced playing golf. They practiced and they remembered verses of scripture and they taught each other. When they were released, in the darkness that they had been in, the beatings, the lack of food, all these things, they came out and they were absolutely able to do everything that they had practiced in their mind in darkness. They realized the power of the mind to hack the mind, and to hack the mind through the presence and the one. It's everything that's necessary to bring strong light into you and heal you. Those guys came out and they started to do extraordinary things. They started to achieve extraordinary things. They had to wash away their limitations. They almost wasn't, but then they became. Some of you might be into 30 plus years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years of a master plan. But right now, we're in Savage Will, and we're telling you the time is right, the place is right, the hack is right. Wash. Let this stuff go. Get out of it. Talk, man. Talk to us,
Yeah,
man.
it's like kind of like the one of the episodes we've had, like the time is now. You know, you have to communicate to yourself that this is important, and it just goes back to self-talk. I feel like I just keep hitting on it, but your self-talk, the way you think, it's just so important. And you know, you hear the quote like the mind is a powerful thing to waste, and a lot of people just don't understand the power of it. And you know, when you're able to develop some discipline in changing your thought pattern, then you start to believe and have the confidence that you can change your life. And that's where it starts. And you have to do those things. You can't, you know, I always prioritize my time right out of bed and then my time before bed at night. And because the brain is slowing down and you're able to like kind of influence the brain in a way because it's already winding down, it's in a more meditative, like sleep like state. And that's you know, a lot of people think that you can really influence and change your thought patterns during those times, and then as opposed to when you're more alert, like when you're driving versus working or working out or those sorts of things. And then nothing I feel like has had more of an impact than that habit of, okay, what do I want this day to be? I'm going to plan it. I'm going to set intention on every moment. If it's relaxation time, I'm going to be relaxed. I'm not going to look at my phone. If it's time to work, I'm going to be working. I'm going to put everything into the moment that I'm in right now. You know, and if I'm going to have future in mind, it's going to be out of intention to create it and bend it to what I want it to be. And you know, things do happen. We get distracted. You know, unplanned events happen, but as best as I can control, I'm going to control myself, my time, the people I'm around, the work that I do, the skills that I have, because we can all grow and develop and hone in our skills. And you know, it just starts at belief, believing that it's possible, and then taking the action steps to do it. Because if you believe it's raining, you're going to go outside with an umbrella. It's hand in hand. And you have to treat your life and your decisions and your time the same way. You know, so I really just couldn't stress anything more. And it's as much as of a lesson to me as it is to anyone out there that's listening, is because success principles don't change.
That's right.
They don't change at all. You might have to like grow and adapt your skill set, but the principles, the core of what makes people successful never changes. Like, I think if you just wiped everyone's bank account clean and gave everyone $20,000, the same people would be on top in a year from now. Then, you know, some people would have different opportunities, but I think a majority of people would be kind of back to where they're at based on what they know and the programming in their mind. And if you know how to change that, then you can really change your destiny, change your future, change your present moment. And it's really cool because the power is in your hands. You just have to realize it.
George, it's so important what you just said. I'm aware of a team of people that went into a community in Africa, and they gave $1,500 to each family. And to what you're saying, those that had envisioned and had a vision with understanding of if they had this kind of thing happen in their lives, what they would do with it, and was detailed and planned out. Those people succeeded, opened more businesses, started to expand, right? The others that had $1,500, that had a scarcity mindset, spent all of their $1,500 and was waiting for another $1,500 to come, and then got upset with the people that provided the money to help get them a fresh start because they didn't get another $1,500. So they felt an entitlement to it. So it's all about developing a better vision with understanding, understanding that when that starts to occur, you got to live in that presence with a purpose, right? Just like the blind man, he came into the presence with a purpose. When he met presence, when presence and purpose met, they walked, they talked, they saw, and it happened. And then I'm saying that because there are many people right now that are still blind. This man was in his season for these things to happen. George, when I just finished hearing you talking, you're in a season for harvesting success. Here's a harvest munchable. Here's a harvest munchable. Being in season and in purpose, it enables the blind man to get rid of their blindness. If you're in your season and you're in your purpose, scarcity is going to be removed. You're going to be in a season of living congruently with your own savage will. I can do this. I'm built for this. I'm going to get better about this. I'm going to plan more efficiently about these things. Listen, you've got to get to a place where you say to yourself, the norm ain't my home, neither the life that I want. I am going to change this thing. I'm at the right place with the right timing. I want better for me. And if you can take away anything, man, if I can take 3 years and I can plan three, because I have a 3-year goal of what my millions of dollars are going to look like in this bucket of time. And so that's what I'm pushing toward right now. So my destiny has opened my eyes. My process is keeping my eyes open, right? The implementation of my process, the opening is teaching me this right here that we're doing, this savage will, all the avenues for these contributions, they're opened up. We're able to make a reality shift. Everything we want to do, everything we want to become, you can do it. You can face whatever you need to face. You don't have to give up. In fact, your intellectual, your mental, your emotional, your environmental ecosystems, in the crucible of all the darkness you've already lived in, let a light shine on top of that. A refraction, just a glimmer of light disrupts all darkness. And you unconsciously begin to move, like going through, I don't know if you've ever caved before. I went caving one time and they warned us, listen, when you come out of that cave and you start to see the light, your body will involuntarily run toward that light. And you've got to be careful because there's a slight hill. If you don't try to control that thrust, that pull on you, you'll start running and you'll fall. And some of these rocks have the capacity of cutting, lacerating you. So you've got to be careful. We went through the cave. We came out the cave and I was concentrating because they tell us we're coming out of the cave. And when I was coming out of the cave, I saw that light. And just like they said, my body just started to feel this urge to rush forward and to start. And my legs wanted to start running because I've been in darkness for that little bit of time. And now I was in this light and this light was pulling me into greater light, right? So I didn't fall. Some of the other people didn't fall because what we were doing was canceling out the noise of running when we were given instructions to brace yourself and walk into the light. Don't run into it. Watch this. Sometimes you can run into the light and you can miss some of the most important cues you need to be able to dwell in that new light that you're coming into. We had to force ourselves, watch this, force ourselves out when we came out that cave to walk into that light so we wouldn't run and fall down. Some people ran, they fell, they scarred their knees, but a lot of people didn't. Hey, we're coming into a new light. We're coming into a mind hack. We got to adapt. We got to accept. We got to accelerate based on the action plan. We got to achieve a new level of sight. We've got to be defined in our purpose. We have to be awakened because we almost wasn't. Now we have a chance to be I am he. You've got to live in your I am he, your present right now. I am he. I am he that whatever that needs to be. But what you have to understand is if you don't define I am he, you're going to be at that spot, man, where you're coming out of that cave and you won't know what to do with it. Right. And we're better than that. I am he trumps I almost wasn't. I almost wasn't leaves you in the middle. Indecision. I can be better or I can be just like I have been because of my circumstances. But when I say I am he, I own the responsibility for where I'm going. George, take us home, baby.
Yeah, I think one of the best places to start is trying to meditate and pray for the ability to have the awareness to see where your thoughts are, where you're spending your time, how to clearly evaluate your situation without judgment, and then make a plan to succeed. And then just like one thing, if there's anything to end on, it'd be like those who fail to plan to fail. And I think that's just at the root of it. We have to take control and ownership of ourselves and our time and what we're doing if we want to have any sort of desired result pan out. And it's really cool because we can do it, and we have the control and the power to do it. There's just some external forces that would try to convince us otherwise, but there's also some internal forces that we've convinced ourselves that we don't deserve it, but you really do. You just have to tell yourself that you do. And then it's crazy how quick things change. And, when I look back, I'm like, man, I'm not the same person for the better, so it's really cool. I just want to take a second to thank anyone that's listening. I see we have a couple of viewers on Facebook and YouTube. If you heard anything that stood out to you, make a comment. If you heard anything that you want us to hit on more, or any topics that you want to hear more about, do that. Put that comment in the comment section. We'll get to it as quick as we possibly can. And then, we'll go from there. We'll be here back at Saturday at 11:11 on the East Coast, coming with another episode next week. And we look forward to seeing you guys there.
Grow your impact code, guys. Savage Will, we out, baby. George, good stuff, man. Appreciate you. Thank you, guys.
Great to see you as always, Robbie. We'll see you next time.